This is the other history of the DC universe, and it is so necessary. What's going on, guys? I'm BJ Kicks. Welcome to my channel, or if you're not new here, welcome back. On this channel, I buy comics, I read them, and I review them, all for your viewing pleasure. So if you're interested in that, then hit the subscribe button, then tap that bell icon so that you're notified when I post new videos. Now, first of all, if you're watching this the day I release it, it is Thanksgiving. I am recording and releasing a video on Thanksgiving because it is that important. This book is that important. I read this book this morning and it stopped me in my tracks, and I just had to share with you guys how amazing this book is. But I hope you're doing well. I hope you and your family are well. I know it's COVID times and things are crazy. I hope you're able to spend the holiday with people that you love, even if they're not, the people that you would normally spend it with. And I hope, there's no anxiety getting to you or anything like that. I hope all is well. My love to you and yours. So I'm here to talk about the other history of the DC universe. The other history of the DC universe is a book written by John Ridley, with artwork by Giuseppe Camuncoli, finishes by Andrea Cucchi, colors by Jose Villarrubia, and lettering by Steve Wands. This book is amazing. Now, we're going to talk about the book. Let me just give you a quick overview. Basically, the other history of the DC universe, as far as I understand, this is a 4-part miniseries. This is book 1. And each book explores the DC universe through the lens of a different character, a character of color or a minority character who probably didn't get any spotlight before. Right, so book 1 focuses on Jefferson Pierce, aka Black Lightning. It's from the perspective and in the voice of Jefferson Pierce as he narrates, for the audience, how he got his powers, what he decided to do with them, and the effect of his life and his conscience and everything that he's gone through on his family and his psyche, really. There's a lot to unpack here. And I don't want to spoil the story for anyone who actually wants to read it, so I'll leave it at that. But it's an amazing look at the DC universe, and it asks a greater question of, what if the DC universe was real, right? And what would it feel like to be a minority in the age of superheroes? He talks about different things that may have been overlooked by the heroes. I don't want to give too much of this away, but I'm gonna have to get real. So let's get real for a second, and let's just be honest, right? This book is not without its controversy. This book is written by John Ridley, who was the screenwriter on 12 Years a Slave. That's probably where most people remember the name from. And John Ridley's name has been attached to things at DC before, mainly this 5G push or initiative that was supposedly gonna start off the ground and replace all of the mainline DC characters with minority characters and so on, right? Word got out that this was an initiative at DC, and who knows what it was actually supposed to be. But the one thing that was detailed was that there is going to be a Black Batman, and it's going to be written by John Ridley. And a lot of the comics community was just outraged and really annoyed. And I can't talk about this book without talking about my experiences as a minority getting into comics in the last year and a half. So, like I said, I've been into comics for about 18 months now. And, when I got into comics, I would start looking up YouTube channels and all sorts of things, like trying to, learn more about comics and the characters. And I stumbled on, this community that's known as Comicsgate. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to call this group a hate group. I will say that there are people in this group who have said and done some pretty hateful things. And that's just an unfortunate consequence. But what it boils down to is a group of mainly, middle-aged white men who are complaining about changes that are being made to comics, both the characters and the creators, who are being given opportunities, and those who they feel may be being marginalized in the name of diversity, representation, and inclusion. Um, this video is not to spark any sort of political debate, although I'm sure if it makes rounds, this comment section is going to go to trash, and I will not engage. Um, but I say that to say that I don't judge anyone for their perspectives, and I haven't been in comics long enough to even comment on whether or not I feel that recent trends in comics are detrimental to the overall, all the things that we revere or that were once revered about comics. What I will say is that if these diversity initiatives mean that a person like me gets to read a book like this, then I am so glad this is a thing that is happening. So, without giving away too much of the story, I will say that this book, and it does an amazing job of doing this. First of all, it's not really your traditional comic book. You're not going to see lettering boxes. It's really written more like prose. It's really written more like a narrative, right? But there is artwork to go along with it. But it doesn't read boring. And maybe that's because I connect so well with the material. And so I'll go into a little bit of my personal story. Now, you guys, if you've seen my review of Green Lantern Rebirth and you've seen some of my other videos, then you know that it can be difficult for me, especially being a Black man, to connect with some of the stories that are in comics. They feel like they're way over here, way up here, and I'm just down here at Earth, right? And as a Black man, there are times where being imaginative, being absent-minded, having our head in the clouds, dreaming, so to speak, can be detrimental. It can be costly. It can be a liability. And because of that, it is difficult sometimes to separate your mind, right, enough. It can be difficult to separate your mind enough to appreciate works of fiction. This is especially the case when it comes to like fantasy works, when it comes to stuff like the J.R.R. Tolkien or Lord of the Rings, stuff like that. It's so difficult for me as a Black man to kind of escape into those worlds because, I'm living in the real world. And I'll get into a little bit of this story just because. So Jefferson Pierce, he's disillusioned with the idea of superheroes. He doesn't feel that he's represented, and he doesn't feel that the superheroes of the day care about, what's going on in his community, right? Or in the underlooked or underserved parts of America. So Jefferson lives in, the urban, or I guess like the South Side, the hood part of Metropolis, right? And he talks about things that are going on in the slums, drug dealing, kids being murdered, crime, just all these things. And he talks about it in relation to the threats that are going on and being faced by Superman. This cat is going crazy, but I'm not re-recording this video. So he's talking about Superman as this symbol of hope and truth and justice and patriotism. And he talks about it with a very cynical point of view, right? And he even has an encounter with Superman once he starts to actually fight crime as Black Lightning, because, he's basically lecturing him like, look, like, you don't represent us. You don't get to come and lecture me about how I take care of my community when you won't. And telling that story from that perspective did so much for me as a reader. It helped me connect so well to the story. Because again, it asked the question, if these superheroes were real, if the ideals that these superheroes strive for were actually, represented in America, what could America look like, right? Or do we just like the symbols and we only want them to fight for, symbolism, right? And like I said, this story did so much to help me connect and feel heard, feel empowered, feel like my voice mattered or like people cared at all what I had to say. It felt good to know that I was not alone. And that is why representation is so important in every form of media, right? Now, I'm not saying that we need to replace every white character with a character of color. What I am saying is that it's important that characters of color represent the communities that they come from. They represent the thought patterns that they come from. They represent the diversity. Diversity is not just about, skin color and, looking a certain way or acting a certain way, but diversity comes when there are people with different experiences, different backgrounds, different thought patterns who are able to have dialogue. And to that point, this book ends with an amazing moment between Black Lightning and John Stewart, the Green Lantern, really helping to understand each other's perspectives. In case you did not realize it, this book gets a 10 out of 10 from me. I'm so appreciative to everyone who had a hand in making it. Thank you to John Ridley for writing it, to Mark Doyle for being the editor. I know he's not the editor of Black Label anymore, but thank you for greenlighting this project. Thank you to Jim Lee for helping to see this through, even with all the tumultuous times going on at DC. Listen, this comic is not for everyone. It's not going to be for everyone, but it was absolutely for me. And for that, I'm thankful. There's going to be all sorts of talk, all sorts of chatter, all sorts of flames about virtue signaling and tokenism and race baiting and lecturing and being too political. All of that is going to happen. I do not want that to take away from your opportunity to get in and read this book and understand real perspectives of real people that are in the world right now. This is a work of fiction, but the sentiments in the book are not. They are real sentiments that we face every day, and we are in such a polarized time in the nation that I think it's so important to understand perspectives that are different from yours. And my hope is that I've shown that I'm also able to, listen to differing opinions as well. I hope you guys are safe. I hope your families are doing well. Go get this book. Go get this book and go get it twice, right? You can get a variant cover. You don't have to, but this book needs to be read. This book deserves to be seen. I will absolutely be pre-ordering the hardcover when it comes out. It is so well done, and I cannot wait for the other 3 installments. So that's going to do it for me in this video review. My cat is going crazy with the blinds over there. If you bought this book, tell me what you think about it. If you didn't buy this book, tell me why. If you don't like it, that's cool. You can buy what you like. Make sure you read what you buy. And importantly, be nice to others because kindness makes the world go round. I'm signing off. Peace.